great line. Ambiguity is a sign of human maturity.
Absolutely.
And so here's the next part. Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. What role does the audience play in your making the film? How much are you thinking about the audience as you're in the process of making?
That's a really good question. It plays a huge degree in my making of a film, and one of the things that I had going on with my recent film Shasta, which will be out in a month or two, is I had edited it to a version of, which was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I one night, it was a Saturday night at about midnight, I decided to watch it on the editing machine, and as I started watching it, I realized that I had overwritten the movie, that I had explained too much, that I had not made it ambiguous enough. And in that moment of enlightenment, I began re-editing the film. And I ended up, it was 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I had literally ripped an hour and 10 minutes out of the film, and now it was 92 minutes. And I literally cut anything out that didn't help, that overly stated what I was trying to say. And I left it to the audience to try to figure out what I was really trying to say. And sometimes my wife thinks that, Stanley must have entered into me at that moment because she said I became a complete madman, telling her to not come in the room, just like Jack Nicholson told Shelley Duvall not to come into the room. And I guess she even said I looked a little bit like Jack Nicholson early that morning, because it was a Sunday morning. And I went to bed at 5:36. I woke up about noon, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I destroyed my movie in a madman fit of artistic, what I thought was an artistic epiphany. And so I immediately got up and I watched the film, and it was 1,000 times better than it was before I edited it that night. And she watched it. We showed some other people, and finally I had my movie. And
Beautiful.
so you don't know until you have that epiphany what's really going on. You don't really know. If you know what you're doing when you're making a film, then you're probably not making a good film.
Yeah.
So every single day that I got on the set, my DP would say, well, gee, what are we doing today? And I would say the same thing. Hell if I know.
Good. Jay, that was well put. As you know, Marshall said everything we invent extends some human sensorium. For you, what does the moving image camera extend, whether it's film or video? What human sensorium does it extend for you?
Well, it's movies are a bastard art, and they're an art that is the bastard son of the marriage between playwriting, opera, literature, concert music, and a lot more. And in that marriage of all these disparate art forms that existed before films, we have come to a new kind of art form, which is, like I said before, symbolic, but also it's kinetic. And I think that those two things together create an art form that is more the closest to music of any other art form that exists. And I believe that music is the highest art form of all art forms created by human beings. And I believe that the reason that music is so strong and important is because music is the language of the heart, and it gets you right in your heart. And I believe that a good movie gets you right in that same place. And so I'm really looking for an emotional response, not an intellectual response. And I think all good films do that. I just saw a really wonderful film last week, which has now already disappeared, unfortunately, called Samsara by Ron Frick, who did Koyaanisqatsi and Baraka. And it gave me the most visceral, emotional experience of any movie I've seen in 20 or 30 years. Outside of 2001: Space Odyssey, I can't tell you of another movie that hit me so deeply in my heart. And I highly recommend that film for everyone who likes movies.
Great, Jay. I got two. You evoked two great questions, and I'm going to slip this one in fast. I know it's both, but do you think humans are more head or more heart? And I know it's both, and I know it depends on the context, but just generally, briefly, are we more head or more heart?
We used to be more heart, and we're moving towards more head, and that's not a good thing. And watch movies, and if you're into the history of movies. Watch movies. Watch movies starting in the 20s and go into the 30s, go into the 40s. A curious thing happens in the late 40s, early 50s, where the beginning of losing the heart begins. We see the dark films of film noir coming in, deep cynicism. I love film noir, don't get me wrong. I could watch film noir every day for the rest of my life. I love Robert Mitchum movies from the early 50s, and I like that cynicism. And it's a real thing. I'm not saying it isn't a real thing. And maybe the heart movies that existed in the 20s, 30s, and early 40s, maybe they were a little simplistic. But I'm not sure that we can even make a movie that has the heart of Casablanca anymore. I'm not sure that we're able to conjure up real, true heart anymore. And Cameron did it in Avatar. He hit us deep. But we seem to be losing our heart. And I once did an interview for a film with the Quechua tribal leaders in Peru. And they said that the people of the West have lost their heart, that they're all caught in the head. And I think we can see, like with the events of 9/11 and the subsequent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, that the perpetrators of 9/11, the real perpetrators, not the ones that they told us, not the official government conspiracy theory, but the real people who did 9/11, and we know who they are. They've been found out, and they know that we know who they are. Those people, they have no heart. They could kill 3,000 members of their own countrymen without flinching an eye. And so I've come to the conclusion that they are all psychopaths, and psychopaths have no heart at all. When you are talking to a psychopath and your eyes well up with tears because your dog died or your dad is sick or something, you have to understand that when they're looking at you with the swelling up of their eyes, relating to them in emotional terms, they have no idea what you're talking about. They couldn't I had a psychopath once tell me, why are you crying because a cat died? It's a cat, And I thought, wow, really? Very interesting. And so we have Walking Among Us, and that's a documentary I want to make someday called They Walk Among Us. We have Walking Among Us, 1% of the population who absolutely has no heart at all. A psychopath will see a car accident, a violent car accident, and everyone else is running up to the car to try to help the people that are trapped in the car. The psychopath walks up, looks at the person who's dying in the front seat, and then goes home and looks in the mirror and tries to imitate that expression.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. That was well put. You also